Welcome to the Faith and Business Podcast. I'm your host, Elle Edwards, mental health champion, happiness geek, and founder of the Faith and Business Playground. Join me each week as I talk openly about mental health, the dark side of entrepreneurism, and bring you Bible-friendly tools, support, and resources to help bring more joy to your journey. Today's episode of the podcast is a little bit of a book review type edition. So some of you listening will already know that my dad last year, I should say this year, but it's Christmas just gone. Last Christmas, he bought one Christmas present. That's not to say that he didn't give other gifts. My mum is usually in charge of that. But he bought one actual present last Christmas, and it was for me. And it was The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. I think I'm saying his surname correctly. And because he'd said to me in church about a month or so before, have you read this book? And I said, no, I don't think so. Let me look at it on Amazon. Nope, don't recognize the cover. Haven't read it. Because I've got to be honest, I do buy a lot of books and I start a lot of books, but I hadn't read this one, started it. However, I've had this for Christmas, and even though it was paperback, like I tend to read books on my Kindle, I read the whole thing. It had little tiny print, and so it took me quite a while to read it. But it was brilliant. I really loved this book. The entire premise of The Happiness Advantage is that we as children, it starts even, we're told, okay, we're going to work hard and do well, and then we'll be happy. And Shawn's premise was actually that we've got this equation the wrong way around. Instead, it's about we be happy, and as a result of being happy, we work harder and we are more successful. It's like completely backwards. And what I loved about this book is there's lots of science experiments. It's why I actually, my thing has always been about happiness. I love making people smile. But because happiness felt a bit too wishy-washy for me, although I've got a music degree, but I'm ultimately a scientist. I've always been a bit of a geek. And that geeky part of me just found the concept of happiness is a little bit too fluffy to take ownership of. So for a long time, you will have heard me describe myself as the mindset geek instead. But as a result of reading The Happiness Advantage and all the different experiments that either that Shawn did and also that other people did that he then referenced in his book, I was like, my goodness, there's actually lots of real world science around this happiness stuff. And although our concept of happiness might be fluffy, and because it's hard to define, it's a very personal thing, happiness is scientific. And there are actual real science stuff and science experiments around happiness. And so, which is why I then fully embraced being the happiness geek and took ownership of that. But the reason why I'm mentioning it, and this is something that we're going to be digging into in the Faith and Business Playground. I'm actually going to be building in the Facebook group community that accompanies the playground. You can, I don't know if you've seen in Facebook groups, any groups that you're in, you can have units. And so I'm building out a little sort of playground, play area type thing. I haven't got a name for it yet, but I'm building out a series of videos and bits and pieces, play things, around some of this stuff and the happiness advantage. So I am going to be digging into this more over there. So incidentally, or kind of related, if you're not already a member of the Faith and Business Playground, but you are somebody who would love to smile more, if you are a Jesus geek who would love to be more joyful and sort of full to the top more often than not with a smile on your face, the Faith and Business Playground is for you. Don't be deceived by the name. Yes, most of the people in there are self-employed. They're business owners in various ways, but not exclusively. I do have a paid group coaching program called the League of Brilliance that is for business owners and people who are people of faith. But the Faith and Business Playground is actually bigger than that. It's more wider than that. Because it's for anybody who wants ultimately to be more joyful for Jesus. So if after listening to this episode you go, oh yeah, actually that sounds quite interesting, I'd like to know more about that, go to faithandbusinessplayground.com and you can sign up. It's free in exchange for your email address. But you get there's resources and you'll get emails when there's new podcast episodes out, and you'll get access to the Faith and Business Playground community on Facebook. I haven't got a date for I'm going to roll this out, but sooner rather than later. That's very much my modus operandi. I just go, get excited and do it. I don't like to sort of wait for these things, particularly when I think it can make a real difference. However, the bit I wanted to talk with you today and introduce you to today was this idea that ultimately, if you can help make your day-to-day work and life more rewarding and more productive and more satisfying by raising your happiness level. Now, I know some people are naturally happier than others, but I do believe that even if you're someone listening who tends to err towards the pessimistic, you don't have to stay stuck there. I mean, I haven't told this story on the podcast yet, and I will tell it probably another time. But I used to be really quite grumpy. I remember when I was pregnant with my eldest daughter, who is going to be 16, tomorrow, at the time of releasing this episode. It's her birthday tomorrow. She's 16 tomorrow. So 16 years ago, you would not have recognized me. Well, slightly more than 16 years ago, when I was pregnant with her. I was really grumpy and angry and frustrated and not a very nice person to be around a lot of the time. And so I really am living evidence of the fact that even if you're someone who isn't naturally happy and content, you don't have to stay stuck there. That isn't your lot. It's not as if like God dished out the cards and you're like, okay, well, I was given a hand that says angry and grumpy, so that's it. No, that's absolute nonsense. We can choose, and we can grow and develop, and ultimately God helping you. I mean, that's what made the difference for me. That's been my real experience. I prayed the prayer when I was 12. You'll have heard me, if you regularly listen to the podcast, you'll have heard me talk about this before. I prayed the prayer when I was 12. I was scared out of hell. I wasn't loved into heaven until I was about 25 or so. I started going back to church when my daughter was a little baby. My husband worked shifts, and God did his number and started talking to him more, reading the Bible. Was loved into heaven, and as a result became the person that you would know now. So when I say that, God can make that difference, that isn't me just like using God words and just being sort of, a bit twee and quaint about it all. That's been my actual real experience. And maybe that's been your experience too. And there'll be people that who will have their own version of that story. But Jesus comes into people's lives and he changes them. And I don't think he changes is the wrong word. You become the person that you were always created to be. That's what ultimately I believe. I believe that, it tells us in Genesis that we are made in the image of God. God knew you before you were even a twinkle in your mother and father's eye. He knew the person that you would be. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. And Jesus comes into your life and you become that you on a good day, the you in the image of God day you. That's the person that you are transformed into. So we say change, but you're still you. You're just you on a good day, you were made in God's image, you. So if you're someone listening to this, like I say, who doesn't believe that they're naturally positive, I want to encourage you and remind you that that isn't your lot. You don't have to stay stuck there. There are things that you can do to try and help raise your happiness levels. I mean, ultimately, I would start by talking to God about it, because he knows your heart. He knows where you're at. And he wants you to be this person who is full of his joy, and he doesn't want you to stay feeling stuck. So talk to him about it. Go outside and enjoy the fresh air and talk to him about it. And do more of those things that ultimately put a smile on your face. I mean, this is probably too much for us to dig into. We'll dig into this next episode. Actually, note to self, I'm going to write, as soon as I finish recording this one, I'll make a note. The very next episode, we'll dig into some of the ways that you can raise your happiness level. Some actual practical ways that you can do that. So that'll be the next episode. Hadn't planned it that way, but that will be, so if you've been listening and you're like, actually, yeah, I do tend to be a bit negative, I could do with some help, come and join the Faith and Business Playground, faithandbusinessplayground.com. But also tune into the next episode. You can find that when it goes live. It'll be at faithandbusinessplayground.com /fab10, let me look at my notes, 5. It's episode 105. So /fab105. And that will take you to this episode. Okay? Excellent. Okay, so that's almost by way of introduction then. I'm excited now. I really can't wait for that. Okay, thank you for listening. If you do want help with this, remember, faithandbusinessplayground.com. I would love to show you around. But in the meantime, thank you for listening. I look forward to catching up with you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.